Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to the video. Welcome to my garage. This is going to be a two-part video, and in part one, we're going to be making a fiberglass mold off of the rear quarter panel of Mauler here. And then in part two, we're going to make a fiberglass body panel from that mold for Wratchet. So what I've already done is I've already made the fiberglass panel for the driver's side of Wratchet here. I purposely went ahead and did this one first so that I could kind of sink my teeth into it and figure out how this process was going to work. Now that I have and I know what I want to do, we're going to be making the panel for the passenger side rear quarter. So there's a multitude of ways to do this. I'm going to show you the way that I think is best for what I have to work with here. This is the driver's side quarter that I already did. And you can see both of these quarters are really rough. So when I made the mold and then the part off of this one, there was a lot of cleanup that I had to do. Especially down here where I had to weld in these other panels. I did that years ago, but this area here is still really rough. And what I did on this side is I actually smoothed all that out with drywall mud because I thought that would be really quick and really easy. And it was kind of quick and it was kind of easy and it did work. I mean, I made the panel off of that and it did work, but when I was done, I kind of felt like an idiot because now I have to scrape this all off and I'm still going to be left with that welded seam, so I should have just done it out of Bondo to begin with. So what I'm going to do on this side is where I've got the real rough areas. This is how the other side was too. I've got this real rough weld through here and there's actually a dip in the panels where this weld is, and then something had been done here in the past, and so this is real rough as well. But this panel, I'm actually going to smooth it out with Bondo, and I'm not going to try to make it like show quality or anything, but I am going to smooth that out and make it somewhat nice. And same thing with some of these imperfections here. I'm going to smooth these out with some Bondo and clean that up, and I punched out some of these rivet nuts and I'm going to smooth those out. I'll have to put a couple of rivet nuts back in there for the fenders, but I had extras in there because I've actually made there was actually 3 different pairs of fenders on this Baja over the years. So I had a bunch of extra rivet nuts in there that I don't need anymore, so I'm going to fill those in. I'm going to fill up the welded seam here because this is a panel I had to weld in years back. So I'm going to clean some of that up just enough so that I can make a somewhat decent mold off of here. However, the intention of this video is not to really highlight any of getting this panel ready. This video is going to be about making the fiberglass mold off of this body panel. So I told you I'm going to throw some Bondo on here. I'm just going to do a quick video clip just showing me doing that, but I'm not really going to talk about that at all. So we're just going to skip to me getting this ready, and then we'll take it from there actually doing the fiberglass mold. Alright guys, so now you just watched about a 30-second blip, but in actuality, that's been about a week's worth of, I can't say it was a week's worth of work, it was about 2 days worth of work, but I had to go out of town for a couple of days for work, so it's been a week since I was filming this last, but only about 30 seconds for you. So, let's gear back up. What I have now is this panel, in my opinion, is ready to go for me to start making the mold on it. Whereas before this was probably a 1 out of 10. I'd say this is now a 7 out of 10. It's not perfect. I mean, if you wanted this to be even better, you could keep going at it with the Bondo and smoothing it out more and more, but it's pretty darn smooth. And that weld seam where this panel was down here is completely gone. That little indentation that was right here is totally gone. And this windowsill, which was really bumpy from rust pitting over the years, is it's a little tiny bit bumpy in the corners here, but on the flat spots here, it's actually really, really smooth. And all of the rivet nuts that I had on here and the little inset of the fender well here is pretty darn smooth. So I'm perfectly happy with that, because you'll see when we do this, once we make the mold on here, then we take the mold off, we can make some minor repairs, and then when we make the piece off of the mold, we can make some final repairs. That's how that panel got so smooth, because the other quarter panel that I made that panel off of was not as smooth as this one. So this will give me, this one will be quicker now that I have it at this point to actually make the piece. So what I'm going to do now is I want to make cardboard to block off the window here. So I'm going to take, I've got 2 pieces of ram board that I cut roughly the size of the window. I'm going to take the 2 pieces. You can see how when you take them off the roll, they've got this roll in them, which I find extremely difficult to work with. So what I do is I take 2 pieces and I glue them together with spray adhesive. And when you take these 2 pieces that are curved and glue them together, you get a thicker piece that's a little bit more rigid, and it's flat as a pancake, and it's really easy to work with. Alright guys, now it's the next day and I'm pretty much prepped and ready to start doing the gel coat, and hopefully the gel coat will dry pretty quickly and I'll be able to move on to the fiberglass mat. Let me show you where I'm at right now. I've got the wax, like I said, on here. I do have 2 coats of PVA, and if you can see, 2 coats was too much. I'm not sure I'll do that again, but I was really afraid of some of the resin or the gel coat sticking to the Bondo. The PVA is a little bit, there's a couple of runs where it gooped up a little bit. If you can see that. That stuff will transfer into the gel coat and it will be on the mold. It's not the end of the world. Like I told you, once I make the mold and pull that off, you can make some repairs on that, and then when I make the piece off of that mold, you can again make some repairs off of that. So you still have opportunities to make repairs, but I'm just trying to make this as smooth as possible so that I didn't have to go through that. But either way, this will work, and it's pretty much ready to go. I'm getting ready to do the gel coat, but I'm also prepped to start doing the fiberglass work. So what I've got is I've got a stack of pre-cut fiberglass mat here. It's pretty thin. I think it's 3/4 ounce. And then I also have a stack of thicker, I think this is 2 ounce chopped strand mat. This is really thick. This stuff is very thick. It's kind of hard to work with, but once you get your initial thin coat down, this stuff is really thin and it'll be easier to get this into the little nooks and crannies. Then once I have a layer of this thinner stuff, I'll finish it off with this thicker stuff because this will build it up a lot quicker. I've got a white piece of plastic here. This will be my working surface, and what I'll do is I'll pour resin here, and then I'll take these pieces of mat and I'll get them in the resin and get them all saturated. And then when they're saturated, I'll be bringing them over here and just piecing them in place and building everything up to what I need. So I'm going to be doing this with white gel coat, no wax. Don't need any wax because I'm going to be covering this with the resin. But what I've settled on is I either mix 8 ounce or 16 ounce amounts. That's it. I don't do any less, I don't do any more. And if it's 8 ounces, I've got 2.5 to 3 milliliters. If it's 16, I've got double that, 5 to 6 milliliters. And a milliliter is the same thing as a cc. And this is my jar with catalyst in it, and it's got a graduated cylinder on the top. So you just squeeze the bottle till you get the amount you need, and then pour it in the cup with the gel coat. Mix it up really good, and then go and apply it. All right, now we're at the moment of truth. It's all dry. I did this yesterday. It's had 24 hours to dry now, so it should be good to pull off. I did make it too thick through here. You can see the darker it gets is where it's thicker. I went too thick here, but when I did the other side, I didn't go thick enough, and when I pulled the piece off, it was real flimsy. It wouldn't hold its own shape, and I really do want it to hold its own shape. So I went probably a little bit too thick around here, but that's okay. It got a little messed up on the lip here. I found that you can't go flat and then just turn up like half an inch. It just, the fiberglass cloth doesn't like, or the mat doesn't like to do that. So I might have some problem areas when I pop this off, but I'll cross that bridge when I get there. I'm hoping I got everything in here nice and tight. We'll see once we pop it off. And this edge here is a little bit of a fish hook, and I did try and smash that in there. So what I'm going to try to do, it's pretty much flat down there, so I'm going to try to start the panel this way and then just kind of peel it off so that when I get to the top here, I can just roll it out of that fish hook.
Here we go. Another panel popped off.
All right, now I've got the piece popped off, and I did actually jump ahead and I hosed off the PVA, and I actually went and cleaned up all of the edges. So this should probably be the finished edge that I'm going to use when I make the piece out of this mold. I gotta say, it actually came out really good. I don't know if you guys can see this, but there are some wavy marks in there from the PVA, but before I actually make the piece out of here, I'll hand sand this with 1000 grit, and I'll get it really smooth, and then I don't think any of that will transfer over to the new piece, so that should come out nice. And here, where I had all that Bondo, where the weld marks were, that feels real nice. I'm real happy with that. And then back here I had some weld marks and some Bondo. That came out real nice. I'm really happy with it. It's really thick, so it holds its form real nice. The only part where I failed was on that edge I was telling you about, that 90-degree edge. For some reason the mat and the gel coat just did not want to lay up in that crevice, and I don't know why, because they did on the other one. It's probably got something to do with me trying to make this one too thick. But either way, because I have this piece down here and I have this piece, what I'll do is I will do some Bondo on here, and I'll smooth it this way and I'll smooth it this way. So when I actually make the piece out of this mold, I'll actually have a nice crisp 90-degree there. So I'm a little bit embarrassed. I thought at this point in the game I was a little bit better than this, but either way, the moral of the story is you can still make repairs to your mold before you actually make the piece out of it. So this is in no means a waste. I'll be able to repair that so that the piece that I make out of there will be just fine. And then it's kind of cool because at this point in the game, you can actually start bringing your pieces over. Now this shouldn't fit perfectly because this is just my mold and it still needs to be trimmed, but you can start putting these pieces in place and getting an idea of how it looks. And that's going to be cool. That should work out really well. Alright guys, that's as far as I'm going to go in this video. We have made the mold, although I've got a couple of repairs I need to do to it. This is going to work. I'm really happy with it. It's nice and solid. This is episode 1. In episode 2, we will actually make the piece out of this mold, and then I'll show you how I'm installing them and kind of measuring up to go onto the tube chassis. So that's it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope they're helping you with whatever you might be working on, and I hope to see you on the next video. Take care.